Greetings and salutations, fellow book readers. This is Mark, and the book I'll review today is Immortality. Before we continue, this is personalized limited edition of Immortality with leather cover designed and made by me. At the end of the video, I will tell you a couple of ways of how you can get one for yourself, if you are interested. Now let's get back to the review. Immortality is a 1988 novel by the Franco-Czech writer Milan Kundera. Kundera was born in Czechoslovakia in 1929 and died recently at the ripe age of 94. In his youth, he became a member of the Communist Party, but as he became older and wiser, he saw the reality of the political ideology he chose and rectified his mistake. After the celebration of the Prague Spring and resulting bloody Warsaw Pact invasion of the country, he lost all hope for the system's redemption and moved to Paris. And there he dedicated himself to writing, initially in Czech and later in French. His 1973 novel, Life is Elsewhere, published a couple of years before leaving Czechoslovakia, seems to imply in the title that he already gave up and it was time to look for greener pastures elsewhere. Kundera is best known for his novel The Unbearable Lightness of Being, very philosophical, as all his books are. In this, he was pretty French, a writer who philosophizes, contrary to the Germans who are considered more of philosophers who write. I say this because to me, it is my personal opinion, there is something Germanic in Czechs, the way of thinking and behaving, even though they are Slavic, at least speak a Slavic language. Probably when Slavic tribes arrived in the area around the 6th century AD, they absorbed a large Germanic population already living there. Something similar must have happened with the Turks, who arrived from Central Asia but seem pretty European, especially in the western part of the country, probably because of mixing with the Greeks, who inhabited the area for thousands of years. So Greeks and Turks might be much closer than they would like to admit, but identity often is nothing more than a choice. I don't know if it's true, but Kundera wanted to be known as a French writer because he considered Western Europeans more individualistic, and individualism in general produces better artists. Kundera is one of the best-known modern writers from Eastern Europe. Many of them wrote in exile, forced to flee their countries, and often the prose is very melancholic, with a sense of loneliness and longing. What is Immortality about? It is about a middle-aged woman struggling with finding meaning in the life she lived. And there are the little details, the enjoyable moments that perhaps make up for the possible meaninglessness and impermanence of life. The most delightful moment of the day, thanks to the radio I can savor drowsing and waking, that marvelous swing between wakefulness and sleep, which in itself is enough to keep us from regretting our birth. The book takes a philosophical look at our often unconscious longing for immortality and many different, sometimes strange ways we go about it. It is a novel intertwined with interpretations of historical and fictitious characters' search for immortality. The exploration of the subject is very ambiguous, but it seems the only reasonable way to present it. A bit of the plot. The novel is divided into 7 parts. The first part, Phase, begins in front of a swimming pool in a Paris hotel. The author, waiting for his friend, Professor Avenarius, observes a middle-aged woman and is surprised at her youthful gestures. And realizing that some things never change, disappear, he decides to create a plot for a novel around the woman's imaginary life, and he names her Agnes. The second part, Immortality, focuses on the German writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe and his turbulent platonic relationship with a younger woman, Bettina. It is Bettina's own search for immortality on the back of Goethe's fame. There's also later Goethe, dead and enjoying the afterlife, in no small part thanks to his acquaintance with Hemingway, dead as well, and the lively conversations between them. Part 3, Fighting, returns to Agnes and the struggle with her sister Laura, the competitive conflict between siblings that is often the reason for the crucial choices we make and the importance it has on the trajectory of our lives. Part 4, Homo Sentimentalist, brings back Goethe and the drama of his relationship with Bettina. It tries to show immortality through the feeling of love. There are more conversations with Hemingway. Part 5, Chance, returns to Agnes, her later fictitious life, and its impact on the conversations between the author and his friend, Professor Avenarius. Part 6, Dial, is a bit of a novel in itself. The protagonist this time is a man named Ruben, and the plot is his travel, movement through different phases of life, with sex drive serving as a kind of gauge for one's age. And also movement of clock hands on the dial symbolizes aging. And the final part, 7, Celebration, returns to the hotel swimming pool for a bit of conclusion to the plot and to celebrate its end. And that's the basic plot. What are my thoughts about immortality? More than anything, it is a philosophical work that looks at love, desire, and memory, and how they relate to our quest for immortality. The book is beautifully written, with philosophical questions presented in poetic prose. It is more philosophically direct than Kundera's most famous book, The Unbearable Lightness of Being, and more obvious in its aim, but there is still a story, and adapting the perception of historical events as a background for some deep existential reflections. Agnes seems to be struggling with the life she lived, trying to understand it, so she can make amends to find meaningful continuation, not only in the rest of her physical existence, but also trying to find some understanding of what might happen after, if there is a possibility of immortality. To be true to the title, the book questions immortality, what it might be, and how it might be achieved. It further relates to the questions about spirituality and existence of God. Agnes used to go for walks with her father, and once she asked him whether he believed in God. Father answered, "I believe in the Creator's computer." The Agnes mother died before the father, which was kind of unexpected, since it was the father who was supposed to go first, but this is one of those things difficult to plan, so the father goes back to being single again, and it allows Agnes to have a deeper connection with him, to realize some profound truths about her feelings for him, and how it is connected to her relationship with her husband. The father, who was Swiss German, used to read to Agnes German poetry, one specific poem by Goethe, which can only be understood when read in German. And before dying, he reads it again, and she finally understands it. It is about dying, and the message seems to be that in order not to have any regrets, one needs to live his own life. And for Agnes, it means detachment from her husband and daughter. The message, above all, is we are individual and solitary beings, and Agnes takes some drastic steps to assert her individuality, because the implication is immortality can only be found in it. Kundera explores different aspects of becoming immortal, actions we can take in our lives to achieve it, some seemingly driven by subconscious. One of them is how the modern world has contributed in making us immortal in the physical sense through photography, the cameras, which are present everywhere. People generally are well behaved because they think somebody is watching them. In the old days it was fear of God, and now the eye of God has been replaced by the photo lens. It also means loss of our privacy and more solitude, and one idea of immortality has been replaced by another, more superficial, and as an extension, the society is becoming more superficial. Agnes, said Paul, and his voice had suddenly become serious. Your face does not resemble any other. Don't smile, I really mean it. If you love somebody, you love his face, and then it becomes totally different from everyone else's. Yes, you know me by my face, you know me as a face, and you never knew me any other way. Therefore, it could never occur to you that my face is not myself. The idea is, if we know somebody only by their face, their visual aspect, as in a photo, then we don't really know them. And as the face changes, so do our feelings about the person. And this is pretty superficial connection to another person. So the struggle for immortality is shifting from spiritual to physical, but the subconscious or instinctive need for immortality has not been eliminated. It kind of relates to Nietzsche's phrase, God is dead because we killed him, but the killing doesn't mean eliminating, just replacing. Religion was or is being replaced by political ideologies, and that's immortality, replacement instead of elimination. We are replaced by other human beings, and our physical existence is replaced by something else. And the question without answer is, what? Agnes's sister, Laura, is an example of this bodily or physical replacement in life. She has men in her life being replaced by other men, and for them she is replaced by other women. She also might be a metaphor for immortality as continuation through replacement. This also implies that we can achieve immortality through other people, because if they remember us, in a sense, we become immortal. It has been present through human history, through figure sculpting and painting, and then in the 19th century arrived photography, which made the immortality through image accessible to many more people. There is even a specialized field called post-mortem photography, which takes photos of recently deceased individuals, especially young children, which might not have any photos taken while alive. It is the desire of others to immortalize us, but it is all part of our instinctive or subconscious search for immortality by being remembered. I wonder how far does it go if the desire has always been present in some form, cave paintings, or if it is one of evolutionary consequences. Further, related to immortality through memory are the individual efforts to leave something behind to be remembered by. Maybe people who commit mass murder before committing suicide are motivated by it. Maybe people who leave something behind, artwork, literature, or anything consciously created, are motivated by the subconscious desire for immortality. This might include having children, which is a pretty effective way to be remembered. So perhaps the search for immortality is a manifestation of the survival instinct, survival of the species by procreation, and everything else is just a side effect of it. The idea of being remembered by masses for leaving some type of work behind is explored in the novel through the historic character of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Just like a photo immortalizes one specific moment, being remembered for something specific erases everything else about us. So the desire to leave something great behind is trying to control how we are remembered. Perhaps the desire for immortality might be linked to our need for control, to be in charge of what happens to us, and there is probably nothing as powerful that says we are in control as controlling some aspect of death, how others remember us. Maybe even we feel that if we are dead but remembered, we are not really dead, or less dead, if such thing is possible. Well, in our minds, everything is possible. He was exactly 1 year short of 60. Death was approaching, and with that also immortality. For as I said, death and immortality form an inseparable pair. So we cannot achieve immortality until we die, because that's when we are only remembered. But are we remembered forever? With time, we are forgotten, so do we lose our immortality then? Maybe we are immortal in death, because death in itself is immortal. But what if death is just a part of the cycle of living and dying? Then we are already immortal in life. Returning to Goethe, there was his relationship with the girl named Bettina, generally assumed to be about love, some type of intimacy, not necessarily sexual, basically a moment in life. But for Bettina, it was a search for her own immortality and trying to find it through Goethe. What was at stake between them was not love, it was immortality. Bettina wrote to him, "I have a strong will to love you for eternity." And further, he began to grasp the real and less flattering significance of Bettina's message. She was letting him know that the old game was continuing, that she had not surrendered, that she was the one to sew the ceremonial shroud in which she would be exhibited to posterity, and that nothing he could do would stop her, least of all his stubborn silence. It was Bettina's desire for immortality, achieved through controlling Goethe's immortality, how he was to be remembered, and through it how she was to be remembered. And she did it by publishing a book about their relationship, her interpretation of it, with some adjustments of the facts, omitting some information. Okay, I will continue Kundera's reflections on immortality, different manners individuals try to achieve it, in part 2. Until then, keep your ear close to the ground and read a book. Adios.